Back to the show, Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullin. Senator, it's great to see you again. Thanks for being with us. What do you make of the criticisms here? Because President Trump says he and private donors are going to pay for the $250 million costs here, but their lawmakers are demanding details. What do you think?
Well, I think it's hilarious that lawmakers that have shut down the government all of a sudden is wanting the details of a private funded expansion on the White House. Then remember, they didn't complain about Barack Obama doing this in 2009 when he decided to resurface the tennis courts and build an outdoor kitchen for personal use and resurface the tennis courts for making it into a basketball court. Not to mention, Liz, there's a long list of presidents that have done this over the years. The only thing is the difference between when they did it and what's happening now is the president in the White House is actually funding the majority of the renovation, and the rest of it is being paid by personal donors, not taxpayers. And I don't typically read anything online, but I just want people to understand the long list goes all the way back to 1902 with Theodore Roosevelt, and then Wilson and Howard, Taft. You had Coolidge, you had Hoover, you had Franklin Roosevelt, Truman, John F. Kennedy, you had Nixon, you had Gerald Ford, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama all did the same thing, renovating either the Oval Office, adding a second floor, expanding the basement, expanding the footprint, relocating the Oval Office, doing renovations to the mansion, which is, by the way, what Clinton did when Hillary Clinton was living there as the First Lady. They used taxpayer dollars to completely renovate the mansion for personal use too, which, by the way, she forgot to mention that in her tweet, Liz.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at it, we're hearing what you're saying. It's been renovated 14 times going back to Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, they want to make the White House ballroom bigger for 1,000 visitors and for state officials to come visit. And it's that the White House needs, a renovation because it has been worn down through the years.
Right, and a lot of times when we do these big receptions, we actually have to move to another federal building, or we take over an entire hotel to do these events. And the security concerns are real. When we move to a different location, when President Trump is doing a big event like this, which should be held at the White House because it has the infrastructure for it, there just isn't the capacity. President Trump said this when he was Trump 45. And now he's doing it as Trump 47. But once again, I don't understand why the left is losing their mind over it when President Trump is personally funding the majority of the project to begin with. They should be praising him for investing in the infrastructure and actually making the White House represent what America means to the rest of the world. It should be a symbol of excellence. It should be a place that people have honestly a shock and awe result when they walk into it. It should be a place that we should celebrate, because it's not like President Trump is taking this with him when he leaves office. This is going to be there for future presidents. And just like the reporter said just a while ago, they can use it too. They just got to win the presidential election first, which the path they're going down isn't going to be anytime soon.
Let's move on to this story. President Trump remarked on a New York Times report that he's going to try to get the DOJ to pay him $230 million, saying they owe me money for all the federal probes into him. Listen to this. Watch.
Asking the Justice Department to pay you compensation. It's going to be the Justice Department. Are you asking them to pay you compensation for the federal investigations that happened to you? And how much are you asking for?
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. No, I get no salary. I gave up my salary. It's a good salary. Not as much as these guys make, but that's okay. It's a lot of money. And I don't, as you know, I didn't take it in the first 4 years. I'm not taking it in these 4 years either. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House. And we're doing a great job in the White House. As you know, the ballroom is under construction. That decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. It's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right? And, that decision would have to go across my desk and give it to charity or something. I would give it to charity.
So this is about things like the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago for classified documents and Trump Russia. You know, he's saying he's going to donate it to charity, but legal experts are criticizing all of this. But he's saying he's not getting paid, he's not getting a paycheck, the federal probes into him are wrong, and he's going to donate any potential payout to charity. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, he said that's an interesting question. So it's not like he's probing for it. He's saying it would be, if they did, it'd be interesting because I don't get paid. I would donate it. I would do something nice with it. And yet the left is once again blowing it out of proportion, kind of like the renovation on for a new ballroom. Anything the president says, they want to make controversy because the fact is they hate him and the American people love him.
Okay, Senator Mark Wayne Muller, a pleasure to see you again, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Joining us now, Wall Street Journal editorial board member Kim Strassel and American Majority CEO Ned Ryan. Great to see both of you. Kim, I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about how much interest we're paying on the national debt and the monthly average and all that, because what Treasury Secretary Bessent is doing is talking about, look at the deficit. It's shrinking dramatically, starting in the second quarter of this year, no overlap with Biden. And Bessent is a badass when it comes to running the government's, like, borrowing, managing our balance sheet. So if he wants to crow about it, have at it.
No, they should all be crowing about this. I mean, how long has it been since we've been able to say that we actually narrowed our deficit? And, you know, we all know this. There's basically two ways to dig yourself out of a situation like we're in. You either increase revenues or you cut spending going out. And what's interesting about this report is it shows both. I'm a little less jazzed by the revenue side because a lot of it's coming from tariffs. I'd much rather see that kind of revenue going up because of really sustained growth, but we will see what comes in the next year. But the most remarkable thing is we cut spending. I mean, this is remarkable. And every Republican should be out there talking about it because it's what Americans want to hear. And they ought to be doubling down on that because they will have public support for that because Americans are increasingly worried about our balance sheet.
You know, Ned, but the tariffs are a signature, policy for President Trump. You know, talk about the role the tariffs are playing in this deficit reduction.
Well, we know that the CBO, which is not a friend of Trump's, has now updated their estimates. Instead of being $2.8 trillion off the national debt over the next decade, it could be up to $4 trillion over the next decade with the Trump tariffs. So it is a meaningful tool to start cutting into this deficit. But the thing that we have to address, though, is this mandatory spending. At some point, we're going to have to be serious about it. That's 60% of our federal budget, 27% is discretionary. And I know Dagan doesn't want to talk about the national debt, but that's 13% of our federal budget.
Oh, no. I want to talk about it. I just don't want to suck all the oxygen out of the room. Because I think can jawbone all day about it. That's the problem.
But at some point, we spent $7 trillion in the 2025 fiscal year. And if you were to do the quick math and cut all discretionary spending and say we're not going to do any discretionary spending for the next 20 years, that's what it would take to get out of the national debt. So we have to have a serious conversation about the mandatory spending.
The gross debt hit $38 trillion today, but the 10-year Treasury is below 4%, which is a little bit of a relief. But go ahead.
Well, we also want to get into the New York City mayoral candidates have another debate tonight. You know, Kim, Mamdani just looks like a runaway train. Can anything stop him at this point?
Yeah, you know, I don't think anything can. And we have this wonderful aspirational view in America that, you go into a race and the best candidate wins. And I think that's a great civic-minded spirit to have. But the reality is, you've covered enough of these, I have, there's often a lot of other dynamics at play. And that's what you see happen here. Democrats made a lot of mistakes. We had some really flawed candidates get into the race in the beginning, Cuomo and Adams, and people then turned their eye to Mamdani. And then this extended period where Adams wouldn't get out, it just gave him an open lane to run with it. And so now, we're having all this discussion. Adams is out. Maybe Sliwa will get out. I mean, I think it's too late at this point. Barring some sort of major misstep, I don't see how this fundamentally changes.
The rich liberals, they're going to get what they deserve with this guy, Ned, and they're going to get it hard.
I say this all the time, Dagan. We live in a consequence-free society, And it'd be nice to see people, when they vote for something, getting the consequences good and hard. That's how you learn the best lessons. And I think you're going to have to get back to Dinkins levels of crime and corruption and filth in New York for these liberals to actually learn their lesson and go, we don't want to do this again. But yeah, I don't see him losing. I think the only real question is it 10 points, 15 points, 20 points on election night as the margin of victory? And then we get to really see a socialist experiment. And I would remind people, though, Trump's made it very clear, there will be no federal dollars as a backstop to this experiment. So I think we're going to get to see something in its unvarnished truth, how it works. And I think it'll be an utter disaster for the city.
You said Dinkins. Let's go back to Abe Beam. I'm old enough to remember New York under Abe Beam. And he's going to have, if Mondani wins, he's got 3 years of Trump. Good luck, buddy.
But, Kim, real quick, should we also pay attention to why Mamdani has gotten so much attention and why he's been so popular when he talks about affordability? Do Republicans need to have an answer to that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And look, the reason Mamdani is getting away with it is because he uses the words, and that's what people hear, and they're not thinking about his actual proposals of how he's going to get there. But there is a lesson for Republicans in this. There are, we just saw this with Biden. Inflation is terrible. You cannot survive it politically. And we've got a lot of different prices. The economy is looking okay, but they're going to have to double down on economic success.
Yes.
Kim Strassel, great to see you. Ned Ryan, you as well, both of you.
Thank you.
Tip of the hat.
Thanks,
guys. Appreciate you.